Welcome everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. I'm going to change my settings here so I can see everybody's faces. Welcome to those of you who are SoulSpa regulars and to those of you who are zooming in from different places. I know we have some family and friends of our Storahtellers who have shown up today. We're so happy to have you all here. Welcome. We are in this place of Shabbat afternoon where we have this energy. You know, in New York City, it's such a beautiful day today. I'm wondering where you are all coming in from. Maybe you want to say hello and share where you're calling in from or zooming in from. Tell us about the weather there. Yesterday we had like the sky opened up. That's a little foreshadowing of our story for today, right? Maybe the sky opening up or other things, other natural openings in the world. But here we are in this moment of transition. My name's Naomi Less, and I'll be holding space for everyone today, with everyone today. And we're in a moment of transition where more things are actually opening up in a positive way. And so we have the opportunity also to open our hearts up in this moment and praise and tap into gratitude and presence in what is. Here we are in this afternoon mincha, mincha meaning gift, the second opportunity for formal worship on Shabbat. And it is a gift to be together, and it's a gift to tap into full presence. So I invite you to use the word, the ancient word that really means, wow, here we are. Wow, hallelujah. And to invite in that presence with consciousness and with intention. Every consonant of that word, hallelujah. And exhale, hallelujah. It's almost like it's like lifting you right to the breath and dropping you off where your breath leaves and re-enters, releasing and refueling, inhaling and exhaling, present in every breath. Hallelujah. Kol hanshama to hallelujah. With every breath, we have the opportunity to tap back into this gift, this mincha of the moment. Hallelujah, 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 for all that is. Hallelujah, 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 for all that is. There will never ever be another day just like this day, so let's give praise now. Kol hanshama, te hallelujah. Kol hanshama, te hallelujah. Hallelujah, for all that is. There will never ever be another day just like this day, so let's give praise now. Kol hanshama, te hallelujah. Kol hanshama, te hallelujah. Hallelujah, for all that is. Present to the hot air, to the cool breeze, to the sunniness in Irvington, to the brightness in Rhode Island, and wherever you're calling in from. Present with what is. So I want to invite you, before we go into learning and opening up our hearts to wisdom as we explore this week's story in our Torah, our Storahtelling, I want to invite all of us to just be with what is in an Ashrei moment, in a moment of sitting, Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, sitting in your house, in the house of the divine, in the encasement that your body has to the specialness and the uniqueness of you. No magic here, just finding a comfortable position. Janine, I'm sure you have the most comfortable position in your mama's arms, but we'll all have to make do with our chairs. And allowing yourself to sit with dignity for you. Perhaps uncrossing your legs, perhaps feeling the feet on the floor, the balance between the balls of your feet and your soles. Feeling your seat, allowing it to sit even deeper into your chair with more presence that automatically allows for your spine to lift without even doing anything. And when that happens, your ribs automatically end up expanding, allowing for even more breath to enter and flow through you. You don't have a job to do here. The only job we have to do here is to allow ourselves to sit with ease, noticing our breath, releasing and refueling those lungs and outward through all the places in our body. Hallelujah for all that is happening in your body with each breath that you take. I'm going to sing us into silence. And then we'll take a few minutes to just breathe and notice, allowing our thoughts to gently return as they wander, which they inevitably do, because that's being a human being. Gently coaxing them back to the breath with the loving caress of a parent's arms. Kol Hanshama Tehalelia, Kol Hanshama Tehalelia, Hallelujah, Baruch that is. So As we prepare ourselves to hear our storytelling for today, to engage in the interactive notion of Torah, keep allowing that breath to release and refuel in full presence of what is. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah for all that is.
So here we are, Max, our first storytelling as newly minted Mavens. How's the initiation process going?
Well, so much for hazing. All I got out of it was critical thinking and a love of Jewish learning.
Max, you already had those things. I will say, when I started out on this journey and I decided I wanted to be a Maven and I wanted to tutor preteens for their bar mitzvahs, I didn't think that at this point we'd still be in our little Zoom boxes. It's been a long time since we've done any Jewish things in person.
Well, hey, at this rate, with everything going on, we should be able to have high holiday services Rosh Hashanah in person come this fall.
Oh, Max, I'm going home to LA for Rosh Hashanah, and it's the first time I've been with my extended family in over 2 years. The last big Jewish family gathering we had was Passover 2019, and to be perfectly honest, I'm not excited. Sorry, everyone probably thinks that I'm some jerk who hates her family, and that's not true. I love my family. I'm very close to them, but I have so many gut visceral memories of being at like a nice family dinner and someone decides that like now is the moment to bring up whatever current event is causing the most drama this week. I don't think I know how to have those conversations anymore. I've just been able to opt out for a while now. And I hate to say it, but for this reason only, I am going to miss Zoom. What am I going to do in real life? I can't mute, can't turn my camera off. I can't send snide comments or memes to my favorite cousin in a private chat. I just wish in those situations in real life, the floor could open up and swallow me whole. Or maybe swallow my grandpa whole. Even though I do love him. Ugh, Max, I'm just being such a drama queen.
Well, Steph, you are in good company because in old biblical times, get this, God told Moses that the earth would swallow up a whole group of dissenters. So you're not too far off from your wishes. I know I'm making jokes here about it, but this is pretty heavyweight in our Jewish history, one that can leave quite an uneasy aftertaste in our souls.
Yeah, that sounds deeply upsetting, but I would like to hear more and see what happens. Wait, aren't we're supposed to be doing the storytelling today. Gee, okay, hi, hold that thought. This would be a perfect story to tell the live show folks.
Oh my God, and look, they're all here. Hi, everyone. Well, Steph, since we're all here, let's catch everyone up and bring out the Torah. So, welcome to Storytelling, where we bring you the same old stories with a bit of a twist, reclaiming one of the world's oldest rituals of sacred storytelling, the telling of the Torah. The Torah service is not often regarded as the most exciting or communal ceremonies, but that wasn't always the case and certainly won't be the case today.
When the telling of the Torah premiered in Jerusalem 2,500 years ago, it was an engaging performance accompanied by live interpretive translation from Hebrew to the local language of the day. This intricate art form was conducted by the Maven, the local storyteller. Though this tradition disappeared from synagogue life about 1,000 years ago, it is being revived by your local storytelling Mavens right here, right now, today. Scripture becomes our script, the synagogue, our theater, and the Zoom room becomes Mount Sinai, the place where our story began.
Soon, the proverbial curtain will open and the sacred scroll will roll. So please sit up, fasten your seatbelts, zoom into this week's installment of the longest running rerun, the world's bestseller, The Torah. Live from Sinai and live from New York, we bring you a whole lot of conflict. Parshat Korah.
A whole lot of conflict. I love that. Thank you, Max. Thank you, Stephanie. We are so thrilled that you are our local storytelling mavens for the day. And we're going to open up our hearts to Torah. We don't have an ark here. We don't even have the Torah scroll, but we can, in our brains and in our minds and our hearts, open up to that scroll unrolling. You can even imagine it happening. And we'll sing together the liturgy that actually says that open my heart to wisdom and let my heart's longings be satisfied, be satiated. And I know they will be in the learning that we're going to have with the two of you. So let's sing this together. Tiftach libi be'oraita, tiftach libi be'oraita, tiftach, 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 tiftach libi. The words are in the chat for you to sing along. Tiftach libi be'oraita, tiftach. All of you who, like Max and Stephanie, may have sat bravely at those tables or spaces of a little bit of like discomfort with family and friends, but you've leaned into that space. Yeah? I know who you are. Some of you I don't know, but welcome to this honor of the Aliyah. We're going to call you up, so to speak, to join us in the blessing of this story, stepping into the story together. So we'll bring up the slide, and we're going to invite you to unmute. Actually, unmute and say this blessing with us. For those of you, Ya'amdu, calling up those of you who have leaned in and sat bravely at those sometimes awkward tables of discomfort, of discourse. It's a little bulky, but you know who you are. For the honor of blessing this moment, the Aliyah. And we'll join together. Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu ruach ha'olam. Asher, we'll go to the next slide. Asher bachar banu im kol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch ata Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen.
Okay, so a little context before I take you all into story time. This parsha deals with a lot of fun, lesser known biblical characters and their relationships. So instead of telling you every single name, we're just going to use a camp analogy to help you understand this power structure at play. Because Who doesn't love camp? The members of the Levite tribe just graduated from general camper to CIT, a counselor in training. And they're really struggling with their new rules and responsibilities. In fact, they have a couple of strikes already with their new head counselor, aka God. Moses has advocated on their behalf each time, but they're on strike 3 at this point, and that's a lot of strikes for a CIT. They've just been failing. There was the golden calf, this thing with the spies, and some stuff about Israel. So strike 4 comes along when a faction of the Levites are challenging authority. And at this point, Moses has to bring it to the boss. And the response from the boss is pretty severe.
Amen. Vayomer Moshe Bezot Ted'un Ki Adonai Shlachani La'asot Et Kol Hama'asim Ha'ele Ki Lo Melibi.
Okay, so just don't shoot the messenger, but Moses makes it clear to the Korach's crew that what's about to come to them is not from Moses himself, but from God.
Im kemot kol ha'adam yimutun ela ufkudat kol ha'adam yipaked alehem lo Adonai shlachani.
Moses says, so if nothing ends up happening to you right now, then it's proof God didn't send me.
V'im bria yivra Adonai ufatzta ha'adama et piha uval'a otam et kol asher lahem v'yordu chayim she'ola v'yada'am ki ni'atzu ha'anashim ha'ele et Adonai.
But if God does end up really pulling out all the stops on this one, creating something new, something destructive, who knows what the creator said, to the point where the earth opens and swallows you all in it alive, then it will be proof that you took it too far with God.
Vayehi kechalato ledaber et kol hadvarim ha'ela v'tibaka ha'adama asher tachtehem.
And just as Moses was finishing telling them all of this, the ground opened from under them.
V'tiftach ha'aretz et piha v'tivla otam et batehem ve'et kol ha'adam asher lekorach ve'et kol harachush.
So when the earth opened its mouth, it swallowed all of Korach's crew and their houses, families, possessions, just everything.
Vayerdu hem kol v'chol asher lahem chayim she'ola vatchas alehem haaretz vayovdu mitoch hakahal.
And so they fell into the depths of Sheol, hell, darkness, silence, while all still alive, bearing everything that belonged to them. Just like that, the earth covered over them and they vanished from all around. They were lost to their tribesfolk, kin, neighbors, fellow refugees.
That is a really good idea. Where can I find me one of those holes? They really seem like they might be useful in stressful familial situations. Take, for just one example, a few years ago, I got into this inane argument with a family member about anti-trans bathroom laws. And when I'm in conversations like that just like really deal with human dignity, I just get really emotional and I can't really have a proper argument. And it does feel like it would just be easier to put people with certain beliefs into a hole. Has anyone else ever felt like that? feel free to raise your hands or unmute yourself if you'd like to share. There's no need to name names, but we've all been there, right? Anyone? I see lots of nodding, and I saw a few raised hands.
And everyone has the power to unmute yourself. We've given you that power. Or just kidding, you don't have the power. So can we make sure, our beloved tech folks, can we make sure that everybody has the power to unmute? Aaron does. There you go.
We have the power. Yes, I have totally felt like that with family members and friends that, yeah, whether it's people vaccine, no vaccine, or other issues that, yes, the mute button is, I miss that with my parents. Yes.
Yeah, it's tough when it's such a close relationship and something that you feel you have a lot of clarity about. So thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else have a moment or a feeling that resonates? I see nods. Well, seems like a lot of us have been in those situations. You know, I have, I know you have. Aaron shared with us lots of nods and raised heads, but like, obviously this is the 21st century. We don't have, miracle holes opening up in the earth to get us out of those tricky situations, but we have all made it through somehow. So have any of you had successful strategies from those dinner table conversations that you might share so that we can bring it with us in our post Zoom lives? I'm racking my brain as well. It's been a while.
Let's hear that question one more time to kind of lock in.
So if you've been in these moments where you're with a family member, a friend, a quick change of subject or silence, thank you, Pat, as a way to help navigate these conversations. The question before was, does anyone have any successful strategies from these dinner table conversations that they'd like to share?
Perhaps the silence means nobody has any successful strategies to navigate these moments. But I saw Sharon's hand went up.
I see Dina.
Dina, then Sharon.
Oh, me and then Sharon. So when I think about those, sometimes a successful strategy for me that's worked. Well, I mean, the person has to be reasonable. Is sometimes if it gets too heated and it's like no longer an enjoyable conversation and, things might get a little, testy that you'll have to apologize for. Sometimes I say, can we just agree to disagree? Can we agree to that? And usually it works. Sometimes people are huffy, but let's just agree to disagree because clearly nothing like good is going to come of this. That was one. And then there was, oh my gosh, one of the family outdoor gatherings during the pandemic, we were all going, it was pre-Thanksgiving, we were all going around in a circle to say what we're grateful for. And it's like we have the talking stick, it's like everybody should listen. And one of my cousins, and she's 80, so I try to respect my elders, but family. She started to interrupt and qualify what somebody was grateful for. And I just whipped around and I said to her, I'm so sorry, but it's not your turn to talk. And I've been really working hard on active listening. So can we all please try to, exercise some active listening and be respectful. I said it in a slightly kinder voice, but just slightly, because I was just so pissed off. And that was actually pretty successful. And I think that nobody ever heard me kind of state my case, so they were also a little surprised. So, anywho.
Thank you, Dina. I love the, can we just agree to disagree? And Sheridan in the chat says it can be a disagreement for the sake of heaven, which is really beautiful. Sharon, would you still like to share?
Yeah, I was going to say the thing that I find to work a little bit, I don't think it depends what my goal is. If my goal is to be heard, this works. If it's to change the other person's mind, I'm not sure it's an effective strategy. but making it personal instead of making it a huge issue that's just about gun control, talking about a neighbor's who's afraid her son is mentally ill and had access to a gun and has a gun, and how she feel, like well, in that case, of course, you know what I'm saying, where all of a sudden just bringing it down to a level where there is some meeting of the minds, even if it's on an individual small basis, as opposed to a huge issue. Or even with vaccination, I have a whole side of the family that doesn't believe in it, and I have to be around them, and it's very difficult. And we can agree that they may not think that it matters to them, but I can get them to agree if it affects other people, maybe they can do it. Yeah. This one person, not everybody, but one person. So trying to make it small and personal, I find to be the most effective way to deal with people, and making sure they know I heard them first, and then doing the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Naomi. Yes, it does feel good, because I also feel like sometimes I've also used it when I was in my other life, when I managed people. It was a way to call a timeout, but I'll also say, depending on the situation, I'd love to, have a follow-up conversation when we're a little, I don't know, I try to frame it nicely when we're more level-headed. Or sometimes I say, when I can really give it my full attention, because I don't feel like I'm respecting you, because right now I can't give it my full attention, or I need to think about it. So those are additions to the can we please agree to disagree strategy.
Thank you, Dina, Sharon, everybody who shared. Those were all, great stories of holeless conflict resolution, and they're going to be super helpful to me when I'm with my family and I'm thinking back to this conversation that we've all had. But I can't help but think, Max, what about in a broader context, like outside of your close family and friends?
Yeah, I mean, kind of going off of Sharon's point, right? Like, the difference between having kind of a pre-existing relationship and understanding with someone, there's a difference between a family member saying something offensive and you being out and about in society and having to contend with people that you may not even know whatsoever. So I think our question to everyone in that sense, kind of expanding, is, should we still come to those tables, and do we need an invitation? So how do we enter these conversations in real life when a consensus doesn't seem like it's on the horizon? How do we still show up?
I know personally, I really struggle with this, with people, especially with people. It can sometimes feel like with people you don't know, the stakes are lower, because it's like, oh, like if we're not gonna get along, you're not my friend. But then I think for me, that can sometimes lead to like an excuse to be terse.
Well, can I just ask a follow-up question to your question, which is this about, like, I'm just like trying to think of an example of this. Is this like, do I even choose to engage when I know that consensus is, like, meaning, obviously what's on the table right now for me and for many people is the real polarization around Israel and Palestine, and knowing, like, if you're walking into a space, like, kind of making some assumptions around, like, who's there and who's going to have what opinions, and honoring those who came up for the Aliyah for leaning into those conversations. But is that the kind of thing that you're talking about?
Yeah, precisely. Like, kind of going to Sharon's point, like, if in the absence of us not being able to talk about it really like personal and specific situations, when it's this broader conversation that we can enter into space and know that conversation might be lingering or present, what do we do? Do we choose to come to those conversations, come to the table? How might we prepare ourselves for self-preservation?
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we're very afraid that if we are silent, or we try to change the subject, or we just listen, people will assume we agree with them and that harms us. My reputation's at stake here. My identity, my ego, I'm not one of them. It's fraught. It becomes fraught, but all the fraud is inside us. I remember a friend of mine, and maybe this helps sometimes. She was waiting to testify at our state legislature about a gun-related bill. And she was sitting next to someone who was also waiting to testify on the other side of that same bill. And there was this was not going to reconcile ever at all, even a little. But they just talked because, if you've ever done that, you have to wait around for hours until the bill you're there for is called. And discovered all kinds of things they agreed on, and all kinds of aspects of society and change and how life is going and this and that and the other thing, policy, foreign and domestic. And then they went and each testified in diametrically opposed ways and went home. And I think sometimes that's as good as it gets. You listen to other people and talk to other people, and you have lots in common, just not on that subject. So you've entered a conversation, just maybe not the fraught one.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And just echoing the comments for folks, Linda wants to contribute. Knowing that there will be pushback, I often keep the thoughts to myself. It's not worth the argument or the anticipated criticism. Private one-to-one conversation later on works better for me. Linda, would you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's okay. I totally.
Hi.
Hi.
My brother, rest in peace, ended up being a blue collar worker. So anytime I ever made a mistake, his comeback, regardless of the topic and regardless of how he felt about it, was always, "Oh, you went to college for that?" And to this day, it annoys me, and he's gone. So there's still nothing I can do about it. But having that be the initial response, where somebody else's comment might be dismissive. Some conversations, you look at it and say, I'm not going anywhere near that. But if one other person is thinking along similar lines or is willing to explain their point of view in a more civil fashion, I might engage later on. But in a group, no, hands off.
Yeah.
I would have to feel safe before I'd engage in the conversation, whatever safe at that moment means to me. But I had a similar experience as what Pat was saying. My mom and I went on a elder hostel trip. It's called something else, a Road Scholar, to Arkansas. It was amazing. It was on folk life. But and my mother, so interesting because she and my dad had gone. She said, she's 92 now, so that's her generation. She said, never tell them you're Jewish. Don't talk about it, because largely they were not Jewish, the kind of things that they went on. But that was in my parents' generation, that was the advice she gave me. And I thought, okay, I get it. But it was very interesting because we were, out of 30 people, we were one of 6. We're there were 3 other New Yorkers. There was upstate, us, and then downstate. I don't know what it was. But the point is it was so funny because towards the end of it, one of the women, for whatever reason it was like, I know you're Jewish. I was like, oh, okay. And they also told us that my mom and I didn't seem like, I heard them talking to each other. They're not like New Yorkers because we were the city people. They were like, they aren't fancy. But what was so intriguing to me was we didn't talk politics. Nobody did. But it was clear where the politics lay. But it was such a good exercise for me because I was able to step back and I'm like, we don't believe in the same things politically, but they're lovely people. They love each other. They're really good to my mom. We had this amazing raft trip down whatever river it was, and we stopped by like canyon walls. And for the love of God, we all sang Amazing Grace and a couple of other songs. And it was the most beautiful experience. And I like to think that I learned something about them and they learned something about me. And that it's a good reminder for me when I'm really angry at those people that, sure, some of them are rabid, you know, you'll excuse the expression, but a lot of them aren't, and we're all just trying to figure it out.
That was beautiful, Dina. Thank you. And thank you to Linda and Pat and Sharon and everyone else who's also shared in the chat. This has been really beautiful. Now I'm imagining going on a canoe and singing with people. It seems like the best way to get to the heart of the matter.
Yeah. So for all the folks out there who might have a fear of holes, the good news is that they're really not too effective in the end for our purposes here, right? We've seen that. Yet neither is that blind faith that things will be resolved, as we've been saying, or frankly, that we will have the mental strength to persevere through all of this machloket or conflict, as Sheridan was saying.
Yeah, confrontation is really hard, and so is coming to a resolution. But arriving at a discourse with someone radically different who also doesn't see the benefit of putting you in a hole is a good start. And, you know, just finding those people who want to remain present and engaged, also a good start. Because as has come up a little bit in this conversation, there's a difference between wanting to be right and wanting to understand. So we can and should feel empowered to maybe opt out of those conversations when someone is just seeking conflict for conflict's sake.
Amen. So we want to leave you with a quote from one of our loved writers, Ocean Vuong, who we found meaningful and insightful in situations such as those we've discussed. In Vuong's memoir, On Earth, We're Briefly Gorgeous, Vuong writes, and I quote, "Who will be lost in the story we tell ourselves? Who will be lost in ourselves? A story, after all, is a kind of swallowing. To open a mouth in speech is to leave only the bones which remain untold." End quote. So with that said, may we all strive to not lose ourselves or others in the stories we tell. May we someday have the strength and opportunity to lean into discomfort, practicing healthy disagreements just as much as we practice setting healthy boundaries. And as the world hopefully opens back up, may we hope no more holes open with it. So thank you everyone for such a lovely time together.
Thank you, Max. Thank you, Stephanie. What a beautiful, I know that my heart being open to Tachli be open to hearing all this wisdom from so many people here. Thank you for creating the circle, facilitating this circle of deep sharing in a very complicated piece of theologically really challenging piece of Torah, where we have a God character that is unforgiving and wants to throw people in a hole, basically, that are dissenting and challenging what the status quo is. So so thank you for allowing us into this story from such a unique perspective and to using your Maven skills. And I want to invite everybody who everyone who spoke today, everyone who finds that courage to be able to step into these conversations, balancing that self-preservation with the openness to find something new in the conversation. Let's say this closing blessing together. Now you have the ability to unmute, so let's do that together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ruach haolam asher natan lanu Torah v'chayei olam natav tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. And I'm going to take a moment and just say that we want to sing a Siman Tov Mazel Tov as we bring down this slide and congratulate our newly minted Storahtelling Mavens, Stephanie Kane and Max Goldner, as we are so lucky to have the two of them working with our youth as they prepare to take on that rite of passage of Bar Mitzvah. So, Siman Tov Mazel Tov Mazel Tov. Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Geilanu. Yanai, nai, 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 hai, nanai, nanai, nai, yanai, nai, 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 nai. Aren't you relieved? Hai, nanai, nai, 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 yanai, nai, nai, nai. felt the enthusiasm in this room. You can see it on the smiles of everybody's faces. We're so proud of you, and we're so grateful to you for opening up that incredible conversation. Aaron, you're so funny. And thank you to all of the family and friends of Stephanie Max who came to witness and be present for this incredible. They've been training with me secretly under the radar for an entire year, learning the storytelling Maven method that some of you on this call know what it takes to train. So, so truly a mazel tov. And we're going to shift gears now. As we've so much love in this room, and also we know that there are folks here in our community that are also here because in addition to learning Torah, but because they have experienced a loss as of late, or that they're commemorating somebody's yortzeit, anniversary of losing a loved one. And our community gathers together in circle every week on Thursdays for a virtual Kaddish call. But anytime our community gathers, we try to create a space here to hold those of our community that are really suffering from grief and loss and are in mourning. And so I'll invite anybody who's remembering somebody today to bring their name into the chat. Let us lift up their names. Let us bring the spirit of our ancestors and our loved ones into this room as we together say the words of Kaddish, words of being with what is and being with the bigger picture of this existence. So bringing Marty into the room, and Joe, and Carol, and Bintu, and EJ. Each one of these a world in of themselves. Each one of these names a world of love and wisdom and relationships and memories. And for all of those who don't have someone to remember them, for all of those who are victims of violence, for all of those mothers and fathers and siblings and friends who lost folks that are dear to them in the violence that has been occurring Middle East. We lift their names, their souls up, and we remember. And we'll bring up the slides and unmute ourselves to say these ancient words together. I'll invite you to rise as you're able, honoring each one of these lives. Continuing as we did in the beginning to just keep breathing, inhaling and exhaling as we say these ancient Aramaic words. Yitkadal,
Gadal,
Kadash,
Shemei Rabbah,
Alma,
Yama Divra, Hirute, Yamlik Mafute,
Chayechon,
Chayechon, Yumechon,
Ayed Dechol, Beit Yisrael,
Israel, Ba'adala,
Ba'ada,
Ubizman,
Ubizman, Kari. Move to the next slide.
Vimru,
Amen.
Amen.
One more slide, please. Yehei
Yehei Shmei Rabba Membarach,
Olam
Me'olam Ulalme Almaya,
Yiparach,
Barach,
Yishtabach,
Yipar, Yipar,
Romam,
Romam,
Yitnaseh,
Nase,
V'Hadar,
Hadar,
V'Aleh,
Taleh,
Halal,
Talal,
Shmei
Shmei Kudashah, Bribu,
Le'ela,
Le'ela,
Birchata,
Min Kol Bechata B'Shirata, B'Shvachata B'Nechimata, Damiran B'Yama B'Imru, Amen.
Yehei
Hey
Shlama,
Shlama Rabba
Maya,
Mishamaya,
L'chaim
Chaim
Aleinu,
Aleinu
Ve'al Kol
V'Al Kol
Yisrael,
Yisrael,
Ve'al
V'Al Kol
Yoshvei
Yoshvei
Tevel,
Tevel,
V'imru,
V'Imru, Amen.
Oseh Shalom,
Shalom B'Mrama,
Ya'aseh
Yaseh Shalom,
Aleinu,
Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael,
Ve'al Kol
V'Al Kol Yoshvei Tevel,
V'imru,
V'Imru, Amen.
Ve'imru, friends, we're wrapping up our time together on this Shabbat afternoon. I want to just mention a couple reminders. We have sort of a different schedule for June and for July. Zen Shabbat is coming up next Friday night. It's our last one before we take a little hiatus. That's with our partners. If you've never been, Shira will be leading that with our partners at New York Zen Center for Contemplative Care. And then we have our last song circle, last one till we figure out when the next one's going to be, with Shira on, I think that's Wednesday night, if I remember correctly. And if you're new to Lab Shul, and you'll see that there's a lot of interaction and community feel to this space, you want to learn more about us, definitely visit our website. You can learn about our partnerhood, which is our unique model for how we create this neighborhood of love and support, and how you can get involved. There's ways to contribute financially if you want to support programs like these, and definitely to volunteer. We love this, a hands-on place, as you can tell already. So please do learn more about us or reach out if there are any questions. I again just want to thank Max and Stephanie for your incredible work today. It's really a blessing to have you as part of our team, and to have learned from you and grown in this space. So thank you for your generous and loving facilitation of this space. And we're going to end our time together with a prayer for healing, as we always do in this mincha, and this gift of time out of time, in this palace of time, as Heschel calls it, Shabbat. I know that, even though the summer months are here and it feels like, oh my goodness, like, have we really jumped into a new space of openness? There's a lot of people who are really struggling and suffering right now too. So I want to invite you, as we ready ourselves for this ancient prayer that Moses actually shared on behalf of his sister who was ill, to we'll give a moment to just write names in the chat of people you'd like to send that wish or that prayer out to. We'll give that just a moment of time. wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom. And before you leave today, maybe there's somebody that said something that struck you. You learned something from someone. Feel free to private chat them or public chat them and let them know that you connected to what they were saying. And we'll open up the space for a Shabbat Shalom and a hello and a Mazel Tov and a good to be here moment. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you so much to Jen and to Ashley for holding our space today. And thanks to all of you for being present. Still breathing.